Everyone we see is a reflection of us.
I want you to think about it for a second. About history. For when we think about it, in the 1900s or earlier, that's 120 years ago. It's not that far when you think about it. It's one really good life, or two middle-aged lives, or even three, passed down from generation to generation, or worker to worker. And when you think about how we've learned history, or what we have in the past when we consider our age, it could be 20, it could be 30 or 40, it takes you back not that long ago. And everything that we understand or know about history is from textbooks or videos through school or study, or what's on display in museums. But when you think about it a little bit deeper, what if in the early days there was another history, or something that was occurring at the time? It can be advancement in technology or civilization, spiritual matters or the like. And what if something infiltrated that? Corruption, power, money, greed, or even another race. A way of moving forward to betterment, or to more spirituality, perhaps. So when you think about that, and then you think about a generation, what would it take to impose or implement one of your own histories? You see, you can't do it all at once, so you slowly phase out the real history. But you see, this is where it gets complicated, because a lot of the stuff did happen, but the way it happened might be different, or the level of which it happened. So some are real and some are not. But what if everything that we know of was chosen to be released, or was chosen to be written? So we learn it as children and as teenagers, and it becomes part of our understanding of the world. But if you were sinister and evil, corrupt, and you didn't want the people to know what they're capable of, or what their true history was, or you wanted to suppress technology moving at the pace that it was, because you'd have no power because the people have it. So you would hide that. You would teach the people part truths of history, things that occurred on some level but not to full detail, or you remove pieces from the story. And if you remove enough pieces from the original story, eventually time will forget it, because you have rewritten a different one, or you have imposed studies and teachings that were fabricated so that people believe that's where technology is, but on the flip side something else happened. Because when you think about it as well, is how do you stop mind advancement? How do you stop a civilization from growing internally or individually? How do you control someone's mind? Why do you think there were so many studies and research on it? You see, they teach you that it was for understanding humans, for health benefits, or for help, or for diagnosis. It was not that. How do you make someone docile, basically? That's what they're trying to do. And it leads into the thought that I had one of the other days, which was, you never really see a fat ant, do you? You see big ones or small ones or queens or workers. You don't really see a fat one or a slow one or an ugly one. Depending on how you look at them, of course. They're pretty much identical to each other. You have different races of ants, different clans, and some clans don't like the other clans based on territory. So they will fight with the other clans. You have bigger ones, and if you look at it, the bigger ones are used for, either chomping or moving heavy objects and these sorts of things. It's a colony, basically. It's a culture. They all work for the queen. They deliver food to the queen. The queen has babies, has more. They feed the queen. She does not a lot, but does so much in return. But I always wonder, you see the worker ants, they do eat, they do drink water, but do they eat on the forage and then take some back for the queen? Where do they eat? Or do they just eat their caper till they're full and then take food back for the queen? Is that part of the deal? You can eat when you're out, but when you're working you bring food. Who knows? It's an interesting study that one might conduct. They're attracted to sugar and leftover crumbs. Honey, sugar, water will always attract. Does it make them do irregular things? Maybe, yes. You see, ants leave trails, they pick up scents, they talk to each other. When you disrupt that trail, they get lost. So don't you think, or they get distracted. So don't you think studies conducted based around on how ants work comes into the notion of history? If you can distract the people from entertainment, if you can distract the people long enough with things like entertainment, sport, the Colosseum, you give them things that they like, you give them competitions from rivaling nations who fight each other. You have a lot of similarities to how they've looked at human beings. You go to work for someone else. You make money for someone else, and in return they pay you. They may even feed you in some places. And then you go home at the end of the day and rest. I'm pretty sure that's what ants do. And when you look at it from a spiritual perspective in terms of growth, if you can block people's mind with mindless entertainment and addictions, cigarettes, coffee, nicotine, entertainment, sugar, food, you disrupt their trail and they become addicted and they lose their focus or they lose their community. And if those ants don't provide for their queen anymore, who knows what happens? Bodes for an interesting study. So for when we think about the idea of history and who we are as a civilization and what they've done to control that spiritual growth or connection that we have, or stopping the passing down of the true history through the native elders of all lands. They rewrite their own, and we believe it. For what else can we believe? For we have not been given an alternative. And I think this is the key point when we talk about justice, and when we talk about fairness and equality. There is always two sides to a coin, we're told. There is always two sides to the story. And if you think about it, and we use this context in everything, think about it from what we've learned. They teach us history is always told from the victor, not from the loser. So the history we know, have we ever been offered an alternative to consider? Well, yes. But isn't an alternative? We have many things like Darwinism versus the spiritual growth from the church. Adam and Eve, Muhammad. We have religion. Religion was to be history. Maybe they didn't like what was in it. So, along with history, over time, religion has changed. Because everything back then was religious. It's kind of like different factions in a group. In an orchestra, you have woodwind and brass. But together, they work perfectly in an orchestra, and it sounds amazing when used at the right moments, at the right times, for the right things. So what if religion was that orchestra? Harmoniously singing together, teaching the truth, and everything was. But one goes foul, and it disrupts. And again, you see, everything should work seamlessly. And there should be an accurate history. So don't you see, for things to have actually happened the way they are, there must have been an influence or an infiltrator into the system. And it always falls down on control and manipulation and greed and money and power. So when we think about history, ask yourself, have you been offered an alternative?
With peace, love, and light,